Welcome to Child Law. My name's Nicola Ross and I've coordinated Child Law now since 2004. It's an interdisciplinary course and you'll find that you are learning with students from a different discipline, either law or social work. My primary research interests are in this area and focus on children's participation in legal proceedings, particularly in family law, child protection and crime. Some students will know me if they've taken family law, and I hope to make you all feel very welcome in this subject and that it's a really helpful learning experience, and mainly that it's fun. Let's put some fun back into education. I think we all need to do that. I want to talk a little bit about class times and attendance so that you understand the importance of being in the classes, and I'll go on to talk a little bit about themes, about assessment and so on. You come to Child Law for 3 hours a week, and the first 2 hours are an interdisciplinary seminar that incorporates law students and social work students. And from the beginning, you'll be working in groups with students from the other discipline. If you want to do well in the subject, you do need to come to classes. So the interdisciplinary seminars serve one purpose and the tutorials serve another. There is a fair amount of content to cover and it's quite complex, but if you attend both of those things, the seminar and the tutorial, it will help you really grasp the material. The tutorials are taught separately, so I focus heavily on case law and problem solving in the laws tutorials, and I focus heavily on the professional applications of law in social work roles in these areas that we're looking at, and particularly in relation to children. There is set reading, but don't get overwhelmed by the reading. The reading is there to support your understanding, not to make you feel completely overwhelmed. The substantive lectures, the interdisciplinary seminars, actually introduce you to the law. It's difficult when I'm teaching law students and social work students together to find the right pitch for you both. My intention is to provide enough information for social work students to get some understanding and a scaffold for law students who will then build on that in their practical application in their tutorials, but also in the group problems that you do in the interdisciplinary seminars. So you each have a lot to learn from each other. It's not been unknown for law students or social work students to complain when members from the other discipline didn't come to class because they learn so much from each other. The tutorials are particularly focused on important issues for your profession, and they are there and designed to actually support the assessments in the subject. So we'll talk a little bit about the assessments, but first I just want to talk a little bit about the fact that there are several themes in this course. And the first one is the importance of children's and young people's human and domestic legal rights. So we're going to be looking at the Convention on the Rights of the Child and children's legal capacity to begin with. We're then going to look at depth at the Family Law Act, at the Children Criminal Proceedings Act, and a number of other associated pieces of legislation when children offend in relation to criminal law. And then we're looking at the Children and Young Persons Care and Protection Act, which is the major piece of legislation in relation to child protection. And social workers have a lot to do with child protection. So it's an important area for lawyers and social workers to communicate about. The second theme is children's participation. My PhD thesis looked at how children's lawyers understood children's participation through lawyers in the three areas that we're looking at: family law, crime and child protection. And we need to think very critically about how the law thinks about children and young people in these different jurisdictions. And that's often quite diverse, so the law paints a different picture of children in those jurisdictions. And we also need to think about how the work of professionals can support or inhibit children's participation in decisions that are made about their lives. And that includes a look at various new theories about children that emphasise their strengths and the contributions that they can make, rather than starting from a point or a perspective that children are always vulnerable, dependents, and don't have the capacity to contribute to decisions about their lives because they're not properly formed human beings yet. So we'll talk more about that in class. The third theme is important enough to be the focus of 40% of your assessment marks, and that is about interprofessional collaboration, the ability of professionals from different disciplines to work together to solve children's legal problems. So there's going to be two assessments that I'll come to. Basically, one of them is a journal, so you'll be asked to write 4 journal entries, and they're reflective entries, and there's quite a lot of guidance provided around those. And they are the appendixes to a reflective statement that is worth 15%. And they are all looking at this idea of what are the challenges and what are the skills that you might need to work effectively if you were out in the field resolving problems around the law and children. There's also a very creative project, which is the team presentation, which is a cross-disciplinary project. So in every group, and there'll be quite a lot of groups, there will be a mix of law and social work students, and they will choose a particular topic upon which to make a presentation, and those presentations will be given, at least some part of them, in the later parts of the course. So the group work involved in that group presentation takes place up until week 8 and is due in week 9. And there are 4 meetings that you must attend because it is so very difficult sometimes for students to meet outside of class. It's essential to have some capacity to meet together in class time, and I've provided that. There is going to be a need for a team contract, but I don't think we need to overdo it. I'll provide templates, and you need to basically put a contract together and get it back to me, preferably with everybody's signature on it. You will be moderating the mark that I give the presentation using Spark, which is peer assessment software that allows you to say, oh, so-and-so in our group was a really strong contributor, made an excellent contribution and really deserves more than a share of the marks in this case. Somebody else didn't come very much, really didn't do very much, in fact held our group back, and I don't think they did well on these criteria. So it's an exercise in making assessments of how people contribute in groups, and particularly how people from different backgrounds might contribute. It's more challenging even than normal groups are, and normal groups are challenging. I think that the most transformational learning in this subject potentially comes from working with students from another perspective. But maybe you can make your own minds up about that. Most students really enjoy working in teams. Occasionally they don't work. I'm there to support and scaffold that process, and so far we haven't had any major problems. Some of the things that I've done in this course, one of the things I'm very pleased about is that I've made a film which is based upon incidents that occur, that are the kinds of incidents that you might meet out in the field in relation to families and children. So we've actually dramatised some incidents that provide a way for you to engage with the real and practical aspects of child law. And it will be those child law film clips that will also lead to problem solving in class, as well as other scenarios that we might provide in class. I bring in guest speakers, and often I bring in guest speakers to present together, usually a lawyer and a social worker, who talk about their roles and also look at how they might work together. And that starts from week 2 and continues throughout the course. So I've already mentioned the 15% journal and reflective statement and the team project worth 25%. The other 60% of your marks are differently assessed for social work and law students. The social work students have quizzes. They have 3 quizzes that escalate in terms of the marks, 5%, 10% and 15%. And they also have an advocacy letter, which is only 2 pages, but quite an interesting exercise right at the end of the course and due in week 13. The lawyers, the law students have 2 advices. They can choose to write either a criminal law or family law advice in relation to a children legal problem scenario, and everybody writes a second advice, which is based around child protection. I have tried to set this up as well as I can on Blackboard, but I'm always open to hearing about how useful it is or how easy to understand it is, and I'm hoping that we won't have any major reasons for needing to reorganise this year. You'll notice that there are folders, and the folders basically include modules which cover a particular area of classes, for instance family law or juvenile justice or child protection are all distinct areas. And in those modules you have topics, and those topics are weeks of the course. And they are divided into material for the interdisciplinary seminar and material for each of the tutorial groups. Now, I don't actually mind if anybody wants to come to the alternative tutorial groups, that's fine with me as long as you can find a chair. But really it's most important that you attend your own tutorial group. And they're within 4 hours, so it's hopefully fairly contained for everybody, and they can go and do other things after they've finished their classes for child law. I will try and get as much of the course as I can up as quickly as I can, so you can work ahead if you wish to. And I'll have all the information about the assessments under the assessment tab as soon as possible as well. So please start by having a look at that. Have a look at the course outline. I really enjoy teaching this course, and I hope that you will enjoy studying it as much as I enjoy teaching it. It's quite a unique course. It is challenging, not always easy. Some people absolutely love it and some don't love it as much as I wish they did. But if we try and have fun together, it should be an enjoyable learning experience, whichever way it goes. And I hope to see you all on Wednesday at 9 o'clock in HE10. And I'll talk a little bit more then about the need to do the background summary, to record it in the journal, and to send me an email with that information. So that will be discussed in class and needs to be done by the end of this week. So that's the first journal entry. So I will see you on Wednesday in HE10 at 9 o'clock.